Hi, I'm Joe Swati. I'm Director of Operations at the Emerging Analytics Center here at UALR. And I may look a little strange. I'm on a robot interface that allows us to have visitors and staff visit the Emerging Analytics Center remotely and actually roll around. It's just part of the complicated technology you'll see in our new center, which I think is a testimony to Dr. Good's vision of the future.
She wins every award in chemistry, in science that you can get in this country.
I've said it publicly before, I consider her to be a state treasure.
She is a superhero. You know, I'm sure she has a cape somewhere in her closet that she puts on underneath her jacket and her little brooch.
She doesn't just think outside the box. There is no box when it comes to Dr. Good.
My grandmother is my friend. You know, if you speak to people about my grandmother, it's easy to say all of these great accomplishments that she had and how intelligent she is and how hardworking she is, but to me she's just grandma. She's my fishing buddy and, you know, Christmas time and cooking and that sort of thing.
I was born in Grapevine, Texas, or in the country beside Grapevine, Texas, and I was born in 1931, or in the beginning of the Depression, after the Depression had gotten underway. And my father and mother lived on a little farm that belonged to my grandfather. My father did whatever jobs could be found during those days and went to school. He was going to North Texas, taking education classes. My father was a very interesting fellow. He taught school. He finished his degree, actually, when I was, 7 or 8 years old. So he made a trip to Arkansas, saw something about a school up here, made a trip up here, and absolutely fell in love with the hill country. And he ended up with a principalship at Kirby, Arkansas. And I was the oldest, and my father took me wherever he went. I followed him hunting and squirrel hunting and fox hunting and fishing.
You want to understand Mary. You need to understand the family she comes from. She had a wonderful mother and father. 4 children, all 4 succeed at this level. Her sister Betty becomes a fantastic pediatrician. Her brother ends up running the U.S. Forestry Service on the West Coast. Her other sister reaches the same heights she reached in chemistry and nutrition. And that's the environment. She was nurtured in that family.
One of the reasons I think my sisters and I ended up doing some of the things we did is my father never treated us like girls. We were not, nobody ever suggested that some things girls did and some things girls didn't. We just did whatever was available. My mother was a unique individual. She's probably the brightest person I ever met. Read everything, was a Shakespeare scholar and an English major, ran the whatever jobs. When she first started teaching, she taught whatever was left over. My father was the principal, so he'd get teachers where he could, and if there whatever subjects was left, she taught.
To understand my background and where I come from, please read this piece. I believe this gives insight into my motivations, the influence of my mother and family. It also introduces my siblings, who are outstanding folks in their own right. Yeah, that was a note from my grandmother, just saying that to really understand where she comes from, to go ahead and read the pamphlet, because it really gives that insight that I was describing before. This is an excerpt from Dearest Winnie, which is a booklet that my father produced for my grandmother and grandfather on their 50th wedding anniversary. They straddled two worlds. One was old and rich in tradition, strongly rooted in family and community. The other was new, faster, bigger, more abstract, offered more opportunities, less tied to the land, where families would tend to be much more dispersed. They had gone to work in horse-drawn wagons and lived to see a man walk on the moon.
Kirby was a very rural community, still is. It has a lot of traffic through it today because it's on the route to Lake Gleason. But other than that, it's just kind of a stop in the road. And we were there for about 3 years. And then he was offered the superintendent's job at Willisville High School in South Arkansas. And I graduated from Willisville High School. It was a beautiful place to live, and lots of streams and good fishing. And my father raised registered Walker foxhounds, and so this was a place where you could go fox hunting. He liked to show his dogs, and I used to go to the fox hunt, the Arkansas fox hunt, where he had both field trials and bench trials, and I could show the dogs on the bench, and so he would always take me with him to show the dogs. And we had a pretty good basketball team there. I was a pretty decent player. My sister Betty was better. She was left-handed and had a hook shot that was not defendable. But when we moved to Willisville, I played on the senior high team, and we had some very good players. We went to the district tournament twice while I was in high school. And then I did high school in 3 years, so I graduated from high school when I was 15. I was going to summer school, and my mother and my siblings were going off to Grapevine to visit my grandmother, so they loaded up the car and me and my suitcase, and they left me on the doorstep at the dormitory at what was then Teachers College. No long goodbyes, nobody to call if you got in trouble. You either made it or you didn't.
She would tell stories about being 15 years old and her parents leaving her at Arkansas Teachers College and telling her she was going to make her way and they'd pick her up at break. And so she certainly, had that strength from a very, very early age, and it just grew.
I had a wonderful time. I joined what was in those days known as the Organized Independents, rather than I certainly was not one of those on the list for the Greek organizations. I started at UCA in 1947 when all of the veterans came back, and at that time that was the highest enrollment UCA had ever seen, and it was just chaos because there were just people everywhere and not enough dormitories, and but it was an interesting time and kind of a fun time. I went to the university in 1950, ended up with an assistantship in the chemistry department. In those days, Dr. Wertheim, who was an old German fellow, was the chairman, and he was really not sure that women should be there at all, to tell you the truth. But the first thing he did was to try to check out my German, which was not as good as he thought was appropriate. And then he said he would have me grade for him as well as teach a lab. And so he would give you these stack of papers. He was an organic chemist teacher. And he'd give you this stack of papers on Tuesday, and he wanted them graded and back by Thursday. I finished up my thesis the summer of 1954. In fact, I was one of the first 3 graduates out of their program in chemistry. I met Bill when I was an undergraduate. He came back to school after the war. He had been in the Coast Guard. And we both went to the university at the same time, and we got married the second year that we were in graduate school. So he finished his master's degree and actually taught at the university till I finished. And then, of course, we were looking for some place to go. And we ended up at LSU, and I ended up with a teaching job, and he was a graduate student in physics. And New Orleans was the largest city in the United States without public education. So they started the LSU campus in New Orleans, and so the two of us took positions there. Well, what's next is that we spent 20 years there building a university, actually from scratch. It was a lot of hard work in those days, but we were young and eager, and it worked out fine. I had been very active in the American Chemical Society and had actually been chairman of the board of the American Chemical Society, and had met a number of people just in passing, and one of them recommended me for a job at what is known as UOP, used to be Universal Oil Products. The engineers at UOP were quite sure that the CEO had ruined the company forever. To them, first of all, a chemist didn't know how to run a business anyway, and secondly, a woman chemist was just impossible. And then in 1987, I was asked to come to Morristown, New Jersey, to be the senior vice president for technology for all of Allied Signal, including the chemical companies, the aerospace companies, and the automotive companies. There were very, very few women at senior positions in the industry at that time. Now, that's changed much, much better today, but in those days, there just really were very few. In fact, you know, until, gosh, I don't know, the 1990s, it was rare for me to be in any meeting that had any women in it other than me.
Allied Signal's in the top 100 companies of this nation, so you've got this rare woman who gets a Ph.D. in a time in science, in a time which women don't have that kind of education. Succeeds at the highest level in the university, goes into the industrial side and succeeds absolutely, totally.
I had been very active in the political arena in Washington. I was chairman of the National Science Board, appointed first by President Carter and then reappointed by Reagan. And then I was appointed by George H.W. Bush to the President's Council on Science Advisors, which was really interesting. H.W. Bush, when Gorbachev came to the United States, he was given the assignment to escort Gorbachev around. And he had a big breakfast at the Soviet embassy, and I was actually invited to breakfast with them, which was absolutely fascinating. Clinton came in as president. They wanted me to come into the administration. And so I finally did, as Undersecretary for Technology in the Department of Commerce. I was the Secretary of Commerce for a period of about a few weeks, because when Ron Brown's plane went down in Croatia, I was the senior undersecretary of the day and ended up having to take over the chairman's, the secretary's job for that period of time, which was a very, very difficult business because that was a trade mission, and we had about 40 CEOs on board that airplane, as well as about 40 commerce people, and we had to make cold calls to their families. Not a fun thing to do. I just stayed one term. I told them when I came that I would do one term, but not two. Then Bill and I decided to come back to Arkansas to retire. We had bought a house here, we had it remodeled and built a studio. My husband was a painter in addition to a physicist, but in his later years he painted. It turns out that most physicists are artists of one kind. Lots of musicians in them, lots of artists. It sort of comes with the territory.
But I knew one thing about Mary. Mary would never retire. She needed something to do.
Chancellor Hathaway came to see me, and he asked me if I would come and sit on this advisory board that he'd put together to try to get engineering at UALR.
I was invited to come down and speak to about 10 people in the legislature. And I gave them the spiel, talking about information technology, engineering, so forth and so on, what we intended to do. And someone asked the question and says, who's going to do this? And so I laughed. I said, well, I'm going to ask somebody from the National Academy of Engineering to do that. And I got a few strange looks. I says, I'm actually going to ask Mary Good to do it. Now, Mary Good is a member of the National Academy of Engineering. Doesn't get any more elite than that. I'd not talked about that with Mary.
I was just helping him make the argument. And then he came to my office one day, and he had already put down everything for the new college. And he said, I have to have a dean, and you have to do it. And I said, oh, Gad, I don't want to do that. And he said, you know, you don't have to do it for a long time, but I got to have somebody to get it started. And I said, okay, I'll do it for 2 years. Well, this was the fall of 1999, and I was still doing it 13 years later.
Mary understands the importance of engineering in nurturing the success of this country. She wouldn't know how to retire. She absolutely would not know how to retire. And as you know, she stepped down from the deanship, but now she's running this new center that analyzes massive data using visual techniques in 3 dimensions.
The Donaghey Foundation came and said to the Chancellor they'd like to do a new project, but it had to be something that was a game changer and no bricks and mortar. So we ended up recommending to them that we do a beyond the state-of-the-art visualization center. And that's where we are actually sitting today. It's kind of Star Wars stuff. It's kind of fun.
Mary Good's vision for the Emerging Analytics Center really puts Arkansas, Little Rock, UALR 5 to 10 years ahead of the competition. What we have here is technology that no one else in the world has.
You take an MRI, which is a digital database, and we can convert that into a data set that we can put in our visualization center, and you can make the spine that you see. And then he can actually manipulate that spine now and walk through it, feel it, whatever. We've got 2 or 3 clients from the construction industry. We can put up your blueprints on one power wall, and then I can build their office in the virtual reality on the other end of that platform, and you can see where it is on the blueprint, and then you can look at your office.
She has a real vision for the moves that we need to make as a people and as a state to improve the quality of life of every Arkansan. We have brought her in to talk to prospective businesses that are looking to locate. And she'll begin to talk, and the jaws start to drop, and people get quiet.
I retired again finally 2 years ago, and at the present time I'm just doing some work for the Chancellor. It ain't gonna happen.
That's not going to happen. And so all I'm saying...
We have been authorized to build a technology park, a research park here in Central Arkansas. And I ended up being chairman of that board, trying to figure out, number one, where to put the park, how to organize it, and how to get it off the ground. And as you've seen from the paper, it has created some issues.
I think that through this process with the tech park, she has received some publicity that is probably not fair because it's coming from some people who don't know her. She has opinions that she holds more strongly than most folks might because those opinions are the product of an extremely logical and ordered mind. At the same time, I've also said that I'm afraid of Mary Good, and I think everybody I know is a little bit afraid of Mary Good because I know she's smarter than I am, and I know how determined that she is, and I have seen her take people to task that you would not imagine she would take to task, including our mutual boss, Governor Beebe. But again, her focus is always, in every situation, what's best for the university, what's best for Little Rock, and what's best for the state of Arkansas.
Because we didn't have term limits, he could do it. He kept doing it. He did. And he has.
I would absolutely not be where I am today had I not been under her wing for the 14 years that I worked for Dr. Mary Good. I first met Mary Good when the College of Engineering was being created at UALR back in the late 90s. And I watched from afar this imposing, strong, proud, accomplished woman who was leading this charge. She really provided me with incredible opportunity to express my own creativity, to try things, to succeed, to fail, to reevaluate, to try again, and supported me through the whole process. Another interesting twist, I think, is the huge priority that Dr. Good always placed on her family and the pride that she took in her family relationships. She was a tremendously devoted wife, tremendously devoted mother, incredible pride for the grandchildren. Always took time every year, went completely off the grid, took her family on a fantastic family vacation. Time very precious to Dr. Good because she has so many priorities that she had to schedule in, and that was always one that took precedent, was that family time.
Everybody has things that is going on in their lives every year. And there's 1 week that's holy. You take that week and you spend it with your family and you reconnect, and catch up with everybody. If not, if you don't have a coming together or a focal point, then your family kind of drifts off. I speak to people all the time, what is your brother doing, or what are your cousins doing? It's like, I don't know, I haven't spoken to them, and oh my gosh, it's been 5 years. So that's really, I think, the point of family vacations, and I would want to continue that as well.
That's awesome.
These pictures, though, are some that my sister had, and they are mostly from my father's farm up in Yale County.
What will you tell your son about your grandmother?
Gosh, I don't know. That's tough. I would tell him that my grandmother's, was a wonderful person, and very well known and very well respected, and a hard worker, and a great teacher, and that she loves him very much.
I understand you and your father went turkey hunting and didn't get any turkeys. Sounded like your father took a nap.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't tell him, but yeah. She comes over and holds him, and those two together are it's just dynamite. You can tell that they just both connect. So.
Very good. Innate born brightness, genes, energy. I've not known many people that much energy, just energy.
You only have to work for Dr. Good for just a few days to understand just how unique she is. She's got a passion for what's going on, and there's a sense of urgency in everything she brings to the table.
She never forgot where she came from, and she never forgot the tremendous impact that her parents made and that she saw education make in the lives of so many students as she was growing up.
I think this state owes Mary Good a huge debt. Again, if for nothing else, then showing us what we're capable of and what's possible.
And although she's been very successful, she's always been a charitable and generous person and always family-oriented. So, yeah, I'm extraordinarily proud of my grandmother.
Whether one is a person of distinction depends on how you define the term, okay? I've done some interesting and things that I think have been worthwhile. And I've had some impact on things that I think were worthwhile. But mainly, I have just been at the right place at the right time and been able to take advantage of the opportunities.
You don't enjoy attention like this, do you?
No, not much.